We have today's special guest on, Jarod Kogan, who is the founder of Giggle. So if you have any questions about it or anything like that, please put it in the chat. Let us know, and we'll try to get it answered or have somebody answer it. So Jarod, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Sergio and Chris, thanks for having me.
Hey, Jarod,
Thanks.
how are you, man?
Doing great. How about you both?
We're
Pretty good.
doing our song and dance every Tuesday as usual. So, so pleasure to have you on. Much appreciated. You made some time. I know you're overseas actually, so thanks for staying up. Our audience is really curious about what Giggle is and what they do. So without further ado, explain to us. Well, first introduce yourself a little bit more than Chris did, who you are and how Giggle came about.
Absolutely. So yeah, my name's Jarod Kogan. I'm one of the founders of Giggle Finance. And essentially, we've revolutionized the way that rideshare drivers and independent contractors across the US access financing. We've noticed through our experience that independent contractors, rideshare drivers, food delivery folks, and anyone in the independent workforce has had difficulty accessing finance in the past. Personally, I come from a background of SBA financing and small business lending, and both with the SBA and with all online fintechs, there's been a difficulty for those folks that seek or qualify for amounts below $10,000. So, during COVID really had a point of inflection as to where, we wanted to figure out how we can serve this community better. So we ultimately designed a product better suited towards this community. Rather than focusing on those businesses that generate millions of dollars a year in revenue, or might need hundreds of thousands of dollars, we realized that the independent workforce and gig community ultimately needed access sometimes to small amounts of funds, whether it's for car repair, whether it's for inventory, equipment, what have you, needed access to capital in a quick and efficient manner. So that's what we did with Giggles. We built a streamlined and efficient process for a rideshare driver or independent contractor to come online, apply for financing, and have money in their bank account in only a matter of minutes with little to no human involvement.
Yeah, I'm curious about how you guys came up with I know how it is, but explain to our audience how you guys came up with Giggle, actually. I think it's quite fitting. So let's talk a couple of minutes about that.
Absolutely. Happy to discuss. So, lending and banking has always been such a scary process to go with the banker, to apply and sit there and wait for an answer. It's often intimidating for a customer to sit there and be on the sidelines. So for Giggle, we're quite the opposite. We're friendly, we're approachable, we're quick, we're instant. And much like the name Giggle implies, we focus on the gig economy. So rather than just being a bank that focuses on all types of small businesses, we particularly focus on the gig segment of the economy.
Yeah, it comes from the gig economy. That's pretty cool, actually. You touched upon a little bit, but more in detail, if you can give me a little bit of color on what population Giggle serves. I mean, I know you said gig worker, but do you also serve non-traditional gig workers, or is your customer base a little bit more varied than just gig workers?
It is. So initially we focused on the gig economy. So whether it's Uber, Lyft, Doordash, Postmates, Instacart, and I can go down the list there, that's where we started and that's our DNA. However, we since expanded to all elements of the gig economy. So not just necessarily working for one of the app-based platforms. So all the app-based platforms are where we started. It's not the only environment that we serve. So we also work with other types of 1099s and independent contractors. So whether you're a freelancer, a consultant, you run a Shopify store, you run a bodega, you run a food truck, you're a mobile mechanic, a barber, a hairstylist, et cetera, we serve that entire ecosystem. And then there's the micro side of small businesses as well, who are just too small for traditional SMB financing, but still very much within our wheelhouse. So, like I mentioned, like Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Postmates are more in our DNA. We really serve the entire small business community.
Yeah, that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about the range of financing, right? And Chris read the ad, obviously, up to $5,000 within minutes, but give us a little bit of color about, how the approval process is. Let's say, assume that I just download the app, obviously, first, that everybody knows that. And then how does the process work?
Yeah, so the process is super simple. Rather than relying on credit data, we rely on your banking data. So, you log into our application, you connect your bank account securely. We never see your username or password, and instantaneously within seconds, we provide you with an offer. So rather than looking at tax returns, financials, or documents that may be difficult to produce, you simply use a secure third-party application in Plaid to connect, whether it's your Chase, Bank of America, Citibank account, and we see all of your earnings, we see all of your expenses, and then ultimately we're able to determine what type of financing product you can afford. And we go as small as $400, and we go all the way up to $10,000. So it's really dependent on the applicant, and we tailor our financing solutions to each one of our customers. Now, rather than just one trick pony, ultimately someone can come to us once for financing, and if they need auto repair, great, we're happy to provide that financing. And once that contract is complete, we're happy to provide continuous financing so that the business can grow.
Right. I actually wanted to hit up on that. Let's say if obviously there's no prepayment penalties, right? If somebody decides to pay the whole thing after a week of getting the loan out or the cash advance out, then they can prepay without any penalties.
Exactly. That's one of our key features. Ultimately, while we are built for longer term financing than just a couple of days, if someone just needs financing for a couple of days, we're there to suit those needs. And ultimately, if the financing is paid back within the first 30 days, there's substantial discounts to the fees that we charge. So it's low cost financing overall, and all of our financing is risk based. So our lowest risk customers pay very low rates, and customers that are higher risk pay slightly higher rates. And we think that's completely fair relative to the risk that that they present. That being said, anyone that pays back within the first 30 days, the fees are essentially less than half of what they would be over the full term. So we try and give substantial discounts to those who just need very short-term financing to meet a specific need. Now, our number one use case is when a rideshare driver needs some type of financing for auto repair. So if you need $1,000 to put 4 tires on your vehicle, no problem. And if that's what gets you back on the road and earning cash again, great. And then if you want to pay it back within a week or two, that works as well, and we'll reward you accordingly.
Yeah, and let's talk a little bit more about the range of financing, because look, a lot of rideshare drivers go out there and rent cars. I mean, they don't have a car, but we always recommend that instead of renting, they should just go buy their car, right? Because it's a lot more cost effective. And to us, like, can they use this financing for a down payment on a car? Can they do other things other than just repair on the car?
Absolutely. Yeah. So from a use of funds perspective, as long as it's designated towards the independent contracting business, we don't really police as to how the funds are used. So as long as it's used for business purposes, absolutely. Rather than renting a car, which we know through Uber and Lyft comes with a pretty substantial premium, if you want to use that on a down payment for a lease or for financing, we very much encourage that, because long term, it's going to make your independent contracting business much healthier, and ultimately you control your destiny from there forward. So we prefer to empower our customers to do the same, but ultimately, as an independent contractor, the beauty is that's your decision to make, and no two people make the same decision. And I think that's the beauty of being in the 1099 industry, is it's your business, run it as you desire.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And are there any advantages of being a repeat customer with Giggle? Or, let's say I used the financing once and then I didn't need it for 6 months. I come back in 6 months for some other repair or a set of tires or whatever it is. Are there any advantages of being a repeat customer? Do I get a break the second time around since I'm already in your system and I paid the original financing back?
Absolutely. So we have some customers that just come to us for a one-time need, like, for example, auto repair, for a down payment for a new business vehicle. And we see that quite a bit. However, there's some customers that come to us on a consistent basis to continue to grow their business, and they continue to get rewarded with lower fees, with longer terms, with lower payments, and larger approval amounts. So our repeat customers, because we have history with them, we're willing to extend longer terms, to extend higher financing, and to lower our fees for those customers. So yeah, absolutely, repeat customers do see pretty substantial benefits. And that's not to mention that We do report all payments, positive and negative, to the credit bureaus. So,
Okay.
a significant majority of our customers do pay as agreed, and that helps to build their credit as well. So not only are they building credit, but they're enhancing, their offer with Giggle going forward as a repeat customer.
So initially, though, is there a soft credit check, a credit check? How does the process work? And give me a little bit more color on the speed of the application process, because I'm
Yeah.
sure the audience would want to know what kind of process it is, more specifically as far as credit checks are not concerned.
Absolutely. So the entire process takes a little under 8 minutes from A to Z. However, that being said, to answer your question more directly with regard to credit checks, we perform a soft credit check in the application phase, and that's more to verify identity and to ensure, there's no fraud in the application. Given that we are an online platform, there is quite a bit of online fraud, and that's something we wish to avoid and make sure that information isn't being stolen for the benefit of all of our customers and for us as well. That being said, we only perform a soft credit check upon application, and then once they become a Giggle customer, then we do perform the hard credit check, and we begin reporting to the bureaus for the benefit of our customers.
Let's hit up on the. I mean, it's a hot topic, obviously. Hacking happens, and information is being sold, and all over the internet. I mean, look, this is what it is. It's today's internet, right? And as far as if I do apply as a consumer, right, is my information kept secret or quiet? Is it sold? Does Giggle sell information to other companies?
So first off, let me just reiterate, Giggle does not sell information. Number two, as it relates to banking data, we actually don't have access to the login information of all of our customers. They use a third-party solution called Plaid. Plaid is the same solution that Venmo uses to verify bank accounts. So when a customer applies with Giggle, they enter their banking information into Plaid. Like I mentioned, we do not ever receive those credentials. All we receive is the underlying transaction. So we know the payments coming in from Uber or Lyft or Doordash or Postmates or Instacart, et cetera. We see the expenses as well, and that's what helps us to underwrite rather than relying on traditional credit data. Just to really be emphatic there, we have no access to to the banking credentials. That's something that's highly secure, and given the nature of online fraud, that's something that frankly we don't want to have in our possession. I think it poses more of a risk, than a benefit to us.
Yeah, I'm going to draw a question from the audience. It says, "What's the repayment process? How do we pay back?" If you can answer that
Absolutely.
quickly.
So repayments are weekly. So essentially, it's revenue-based financing. So we'll take a look at the revenue that you're earning over the past year or so, and that's how we can forecast as to what your earnings are going forward. We'll provide you an advance based on those future earnings, and you'll pay us back weekly over the course of anywhere from about 2.5 to 4 months with weekly payments. That trail your income to make sure that it's something that's affordable relative to the amount that you're bringing in.
Right. A lot of the audience, I'm sure they're going to ask, but maybe we can preempt it and answer their question. Is a lot of online banks are not allowed to, obviously, through your systems. I don't know if you do allow, like a lot of drivers in our community, they have Uber Pro cards, they have Lyft debit cards, things like that. Are your systems geared to accept those as banks or online banks, or do they have to be the traditional banks that they deal with?
So we accept about 93% of US financial institutions. So
Okay.
while of course there's the top 10, whether it's Chase, whether it's Citibank, whether it's Bank of America, et cetera, those of course we support. There's the long tail of smaller financial institutions, primarily credit unions, that we do support a majority as well. However, there's some smaller ones that we do not. And it really just depends on the institution. With regard to the Uber Pro card, that was not supported by Plaid for quite some time. However, over the last 60 days, that has recently changed. So we now recently can support the Uber Pro card as well. And there are a number of gig platforms that their banking platforms are also supported. One that I will notably say is not is unfortunately the Lyft card.
Okay. We have a couple of minutes left. I'll give you the floor. Summarize everything that we talked about, and if there is something I did not ask you about, please educate our crowd, and the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So yeah, like I mentioned, I come from a background of small business lending and banking, whether it's on the SBA side or on the fintech side. And from my experience, not many companies are able to serve this population well. I think it's inherently risky because as 1099s, we all realize that no one gets paid on the first and the 15th. No one gets paid the same amount when they do get paid. And so from a banking perspective, that can be relatively challenging. So that was really our objective out of the gate, is to how can we serve this population, and how can we, take what we understand about this population and serve them well. So we built this product, to specifically tailor towards the 1099 independent workforce and micro small business community. And, our goal is to listen to our customers, to make it a friendly, easy, and smooth transaction process. That's why our application takes under 8 minutes from A to Z. And we're consistently listening to our customers as to how we can serve them better. So
Yeah.
we do serve customers all across the United States in all types of work. So whether it is rideshare, which is our number one, however, there's food delivery, there's someone that runs a Shopify store, there's someone that runs a food truck, a bodega, et cetera, et cetera. So as our customers, we're constantly there with our ears on the ground to continue to evolve and continue to serve this population better. Frankly, there aren't many providers that are willing to work with this community based on a lot of the risk factors that I just mentioned. And, we're different. We specifically built ourselves to serve this community, and we want to serve them better. So while I think we've done a pretty good job over the last 3 years, we're constantly striving to do better. And that's why it's collaborative feedback. And that's why we work with our customers as to how we can continue to improve. And that's what got us from where we were to where we are. And that's what's going to get us to the future. So that's why we like to work with the community and want to continue to build with the community so that we can build a world-class product to serve everyone better.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so what I'm going to do, Jarod, is I'm going to offer myself, because I see questions flying, but I'm going to offer myself, Sergio at the RideShareGuy.com. People, you know who I am and where I'm at. If you have any questions, send them to me. I'll forward them to either Jarod or support. But the Giggle link is in the show notes, so you guys can go all check that out. I'm sure they have a frequently asked questions area on their website. And, I thank you for showing up. I think you're filling a need that's there for the gig worker, and much appreciated.
That's our goal, and that's why we've been here since day one, and why we'll continue to be here to serve this community into the future. I do see one question that I want to address.
Yeah.
Capital Property Investments asks if it's for business bank accounts only. And while we do serve business bank accounts, we do understand that the independent workforce doesn't necessarily have an LLC and always have a business bank account. So no, we can serve personal bank accounts as well, as long as there is 1099 or business income going into that personal bank account.
Great, thank you. That probably was one of the questions coming to me. You preempted it and answered it. But again, thank you so much for showing up. We'll obviously be in touch. And if there are any questions, I'll forward them either to you or your support team. And thanks again.
Thanks so much for having us, and thanks again.
All right, take care.
Thank you. All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.